The way that I would characterize my faith journey when I was going through it, at the time, it felt very out of order. I was about 21 years old and I was dealing with a lot of betrayal, which manifested into anger and rage. That betrayal was stemming back to something that happened to me when I was 14. I started being groomed by a man who was 10 years older than me on the internet. We continued to talk from age 14 to 18 in secret. And when I turned 18, we came out to my parents as being in a relationship that had just started. It was my first relationship. I didn't know how toxic it was. I didn't know what I was dealing with was emotional abuse. And finally, once I was about, I think I was 21, we broke up. I broke up with him, and I started to talk to my family about why we broke up. Opened up to them about the emotional abuse that was taking place, and even went so far back as to reveal the things that didn't make me look so good. The things that happened back when I was 14, 15 years old when we started talking. I told them all of this, but they continued a relationship with him. I could not wrap my brain around how I could tell them our whole history of what happened, and they still have a relationship with him, be friends with him, and ultimately the truth was is that they didn't believe me. Some of my family didn't believe me. It wasn't all of my family. Some members didn't believe me, and it was just extremely hurtful for me to go through that, and to have that person who hurt me so badly still in my life with people that I love so much, and dealing with that hurt of the betrayal. And so at around age 21, I was very just angry. It wasn't, constant. I wasn't just walking around in a rage all the time, but if something would go wrong, I would cut people down so hard with my words. I was free from that relationship and newly single for the first time in my 20s and dating. I did meet my now husband, who was a believer at the time that we met. I didn't grow up going to church at all. So I knew who God was, but I didn't know who Jesus was or anything about Christianity. And through dating my now husband, at the time I was asking him questions and learning, and he had enough faith in me, knowing that I did believe in God. He had faith that my faith would grow. And we got married and started going to church more consistently. When I was there, I was very uncomfortable. It was such a foreign setting to me, and I was just uncomfortable every time we went. And if I could avoid it, I was happy to avoid it at all cost if I could. But I stuck it out. I kept going, and each time that I went, I got a little bit less uncomfortable. I was unequally yoked when I got married when it comes to my relationship with God and my husband's relationship with God. I started going to church. Then I started to volunteer, but the idea of volunteering just didn't feel right because I was just a baby Christian. I hadn't gotten baptized. I hardly knew anything about Christianity still at the time, even though I was learning from sermons and from asking my husband questions. I was still just very, very new in my faith journey, and it didn't feel like it was time for me to start volunteering. But I decided to ignore that thought, and I just did it. My faith grew even just a little bit more from meeting people and getting closer with them through that volunteer work. It came the time at church to consider if you hadn't been baptized, you could get baptized. And again, my thought was, I am doing this so backwards that I can't go get baptized in front of my entire church congregation. I don't want the people that I'm volunteering with to see that I haven't been baptized. I felt like they were going to think I was an imposter and that I shouldn't be there. I shouldn't be volunteering if I haven't been baptized. But again, I ignored that thought and I was like, I just got to do it. And I did. And once I was pulled out of the water and all of my fellow volunteers were so happy for me, like teary-eyed, hugging me. They were in no way judging me at all for the order of how I did things. What I learned through this journey was you can step into living a Christ-led life at any phase. There is no correct order. There is no right way. If you're presented with an opportunity to grow your faith, just go for it. Even if it doesn't feel like maybe it's the right timing or the right order, just go for it. And all of the other pieces will fall into place.